Alien Girl was seconds away from becoming Alien Barbecue. Then a human hero appeared, the scorching twin stars of Praxis 9 beat down mercilessly on Captain Derek Blackwood's broad shoulders as he trudged through the rust. Colored sand, his light brown hair was damp with sweat, his thick beard collecting tiny grains of the alien. Desert, the heavy armor covering his back, gleamed in the harsh sunlight, while his muscular bare arms glistened with perspiration. Goddamn heat, he muttered, adjusting the pulse rifle slung across his shoulder. Remind me why we agreed to this deal again, his AI companion EO responded through his earpiece. Because the Praxian mineral deposits are worth approximately 2.3 million credits, sir. And because you said, and I quote, how bad could a little desert trading mission be? Derek grunted, smartass. The settlement of the Prian natives appeared on the horizon, a collection of stone structures, with smoke rising from several fire pits. As he approached, Derek noted the primitive yet effective design of their dwellings carved directly into the rocky outcroppings that dotted the landscape. The natives themselves were a sight to behold, hulking reptilian humanoids with thick leathery hides in various shades of brown and green. Their eyes, yellow with vertical pupils, tracked his movement with predatory focus. Remember, Eco advised the Praxian value strength. Above all else, show no weakness. When have I ever? Derek replied, squaring his shoulders and striding confidently into the center of the settlement, the chieftain, distinguishable by the elaborate bone ornaments adorning his massive frame, stepped forward. He towered over Derek by at least 2 feet. But the human captain didn't flinch. Human traitor, the chieftain growled in broken galactic standard. You bring weapons, as promised. Derek nodded, reaching slowly for the case at his side. Top-of-the-line pulse rifles, military grade. Just as we discussed, the negotiations proceeded tensely, but smoothly until a piercing scream cut through the air. Dirk's head snapped toward the sound, his light blue eyes narrowing as he spotted the source near the largest fire pit. Suspended from a crude metal frame hung a female figure. Her skin was a vibrant crimson, as if forged from molten metal, itself contrasting sharply with her flowing silver hair. She wore a tight black outfit with strategic cutouts that revealed patches of her scarlet skin. Her wrists and ankles were bound with thick rope, and she dangled precariously above the growing flames. What the hell? Derek muttered. Sir Echo interjected, that appears to be a Prian female. They're extremely rare outside their home system. The alien woman's eyes, a striking violet, locked with his across the distance. Fear mingled with desperate hope as she spotted him. Help me, she called out in perfect galactic standard. Please. The chieftain followed Dirk's gaze and made a dismissive gesture. Just meal preparation, Paran flesh, very tender, very sweet, special occasion. Derek felt something twist in his gut, a mixture of disgust and determination, without fully understanding why. He knew he couldn't leave her to that fate. How much? He asked abruptly. The chieftain tilted his massive head. What for the woman? How much? The reptilian leader laughed, a harsh, grating sound. Not for trade, Parisian female, great delicacy. Derek's mind raced. The weapons in his case were meant for an entirely different deal, one that would secure him mining rights on Taurus Prime. Without those weapons, that deal would fall through. But the woman's eyes hadn't left his. There was intelligence there and a fierce will to live that resonated with something deep inside him. The weapons, Derek said firmly, all of them, in exchange for her. The chieftain's yellow eyes widened in surprise, then narrowed calculatingly. All weapons for 1 meal? She's not a meal, Derek growled. She's coming with me. After a tense moment, the chieftain barked out orders in his native tongue. 2 warriors moved to the fire pit and began untying the prison woman. Sir Echo warned in his ear, the tourist prime deal. I know. Derek cut in. We'll figure something out. The prison woman was brought before him, her hands still bound up close. Her beauty was even more striking, her features delicate yet strong, her silver hair shimmering in the sunlight, a thin sheen of sweat coated her crimson skin, making it gleam like polished metal. You are mine now, the chief declared, pushing her toward Derek. Trade complete. Derek handed over the Case of weapons then turned to the woman with a quick flick of his combat knife. He cut her bonds. "You're not mine," he said. "Quietly, you're free, but you might want to stick with me until we're off this rock." Relief and gratitude flooded her. "Violet eyes, thank you," she whispered. "My name is Rhea Art Derek Blackwood," he replied, then gestured toward the path leading back to his ship. "Let's get the hell out of here before they chain." Their minds about dinner as they walked away from the settlement, Derek couldn't help but notice the way Rhea moved. Graceful despite her ordeal, and with a natural confidence that suggested she was more than just a damsel in distress, so he said casually, "Want to tell me how?" A paean ended up as the main course at a Praxian barbecue. Rhea's lips curved into a small smile. "It's a long story, Captain Blackwood." "Well," Derek replied, glancing back at the settlement receding behind them. "We've got a long walk ahead of us." The twin sons of Prize 9 were beginning their slow descent toward the horizon, painting the desert landscape in hues of amber and gold. Derek and Rhea had been walking for nearly an hour, the prawn settlement now just a smudge in the distance behind them, so Derek prompted. "Again, that story of yours." R's violet eyes darted to him, then back to the path ahead. "I was on a diplomatic mission," she began, her melodic voice carrying easily. "In the still desert air, my people, the Parisians, have been isolated for generations. I'm part of a new initiative to establish relations with other species. Diplomatic mission, huh?" Derek raised an eyebrow. "Most diplomats I know don't end up trussed up over a cooking fire." A flash of irritation crossed her features. "My shuttle was attacked by raiders. They disabled my engines and forced me to crash land here." She gestured at the barren landscape. "The Praxian found me before I could repair my communications array and decided you'd make a nice dinner." Derek finished. "Yes," she shuddered slightly. "They've never seen a Parisian before. Apparently our scent is quite appetizing to them." Derek studied her as they walked. Her movements were precise, economical, trained, and despite her revealing outfit, he noticed calluses on her hands that didn't match the story of a sheltered diplomat. "You know," he said casually, "for someone who was about to become alien barbecue, you're remarkably composed." Rhea's lips curved into a slight smile. "My people are known for our resilience, Captain Blackwood." Derek, he corrected, "and resilience is one thing, combat training is another." Her stride faltered for just a moment, barely perceptible, but enough for Derek to catch it. "What makes you think I have combat training?" "The way you move, the way you scan our surroundings. The fact that you've been keeping track of our position relative to my ship, even though I haven't told you where it is." He grinned. "I'm guessing diplomatic mission is a bit of a simplification." Rhea regarded him for a long moment, then sighed. "You're more observant than most humans I've encountered. Part of staying alive in this business." Derek replied, "So what's the real story?" Before she could answer, Echo's voice came through his earpiece. "Sir, I'm detecting movement behind us. Multiple signatures moving fast." Derek spun around his hand automatically, reaching for his sidearm. In the distance, a cloud of dust was rising from the direction of the Prian settlement. He muttered, "Looks like our reptilian friends are having second thoughts." Rhea followed his gaze, her expression hardening. "They're coming for me." "What makes you so special?" Derek asked, already calculating their options. His ship was still at least 2 miles away over rough terrain they couldn't outrun. The Praxian who were built for this environment. Rhea's hand went to a pendant at her throat, a small glitter ing red gem that Derek hadn't noticed before this. She said simply, "It's a Parisian fire crystal, extremely rare, even on my world." To the Praxian, "It's worth more than all your weapons combined. And you're just mentioning this now?" Derek growled, grabbing her arm and pulling her toward a nearby rock formation. "We need cover, move." They sprinted across the sand, the distant roar of Praxian vehicles growing louder, reaching the rocks. Derek pushed right behind the largest boulder and drew his pulse rifle. "Sir Eco warned I count 6 vehicles, approximately 20 Praxian all armed." "Fantastic," Derek muttered. He turned to Rhea. "Any other secrets I should know about before they get here?" Rhea's crimson skin seemed to glow brighter with her rising emotion. "I'm not just a Diplomat, she admitted I'm part of the prison's special forces. My mission was to establish contact with potential allies. Against the Kel EMP, Empire, the Krell. Derek's eyes widened. Those bastards have been expanding their territory for years, taking over systems, enslaving populations. Yes, Ri nodded. They've set their sights on Parisia. Next, my people are powerful, but few in number. We need allies. The approaching vehicles were close enough now that Derek could make out individual Praxian, their massive forms hunched over primitive, but effective hover bikes. Each carried crude, but deadly-looking weapons. Well, Derek said grimly, checking his rifle's charge, I hope those special forces skills of yours are up to scratch, because we're about to have company. To his surprise, Rhea reached down and tore away a section of her tight black outfit at the thigh, revealing a slim metallic device strapped to her leg. With a flick of her wrist, it extended into a staff of gleaming silver metal. My skills are adequate, she said, with a hint of a smile, though I would have preferred not to reveal them quite so soon. The first of the Praxian vehicles skidded to a halt about 50 yards from their position. The chieftain's voice boomed across the distance. Human return. Parisian fail. Keep weapons. Fair trade. I don't think so. Derek called back. Deals a deal. The chieftain roared in anger. Then we take both. The Praxian charge their hover bikes, kicking up clouds of rust-colored sand. Derek took aim with his rifle, targeting the lead bike's engine. The pulse blast hit its mark, sending the vehicle into a wild spin that crashed into another bike. 2 down, 4 to go beside him. Rhea vaulted over the boulder, her silver staff whirling in a deadly arc. She moved with incredible speed and precision, her crimson skin a blur against the desert backdrop. The nearest Praxian swung a massive club at her head, but she ducked under it, effortlessly bringing her staff up into his jaw with a sickening crack. Derek had no time to admire her technique as 2 more Praxian converged on his position. He fired again, catching one in the shoulder, but the other was upon him. Before he could adjust his aim, the reptilian warrior's clawed hands slashed at his face, and Derek barely managed to block with his rifle. The force of the blow sent him staggering backward. Recovering quickly, he dropped the rifle and drew his combat knife, slashing at the Pran's exposed throat. Green blood spurted from the wound, and the warrior fell back, clutching at his neck. Derek spun around to find Rhea surrounded by 3 Praxian, her staff a silver whirlwind, as she kept them at bay, but more were approaching, and they were still badly outnumbered. Echo. Derek barked, emergency protocol Omega. Bring the ship to us. Initiating, sir. The AI responded. ETA 3 minutes. We don't have 3 minutes. Derek muttered, rushing to Rhea's side. Back to back they face the encircling Praxian. Any other tricks up your sleeve? He asked, his knife held ready. Rhea's violet eyes flashed. Just one. She raised her free hand, and to Derek's astonishment, flames erupted from her palm, engulfing the nearest Praxian. The reptilian warrior screamed in agony, rolling in the sand to extinguish the fire. Holy Derek breath. That's not in any Parisian profile I've ever read. There's a lot about my people that isn't in your databases, Rigger replied, sending another burst of flame toward their attackers. The Praxian fell back, clearly unprepared for this development. Taking advantage of their hesitation, Derek grabbed his fallen rifle and fired a series of rapid shots, forcing them to scatter further in the distance. He heard the welcome roar of his ship's engines. The sleek craft appeared over the horizon, its automated defense systems already targeting the Praxian vehicles. A barrage of laser fire rained down, destroying the remaining hover bikes in a series of explosions. The ship settled into the sand nearby, its loading ramp extending after you. Derek gestured to Rhea, keeping his rifle trained on the retreating Praxian. They sprinted for the ship, diving inside as the ramp began to close behind them. Derek scrambled to the cockpit, throwing himself into the pilot seat and engaging the thrusters before the Praxian could regroup. The ship shot upward, leaving the desert planet and its reptilian inhabitants far below. Only when they broke atmosphere did Derek allow himself to relax, slumping back in His seat, Rhea stood in the cockpit doorway, her staff, now retracted to its compact form, her silver hair was. Wind-blown, her crimson skin gleaming with exertion, and there was a small cut on her cheek that oozed dark red. Blood, so Derek said, turning to face her fur powers, combat training, and a mission. To save your planet from the Krell. Any other surprises I should know about, Rye? His violet eyes met his, and a slow smile spread across her face, many Captain. Blackwood, but perhaps we should catch our breath before I reveal them all. Derek couldn't help but return her smile, fair enough, but first things first, he gestured to her torn outfit. The ship's fabricator can make you something less revealing, unless that's a pie in fashion choice. Rhea glanced down at herself, and laughed, a sound like crystal chime that sent an unexpected warmth through Derek's chest. The Praxian took my uniform. This was what they provided before they decided I'd make a better meal than a slave. Well, their loss is my gain, Derek said before he could stop himself. He cleared his throat awkwardly. I mean the fabricator down the hall, first door on the left. As Rhea turned to go, she paused. Thank you, Derek. Not many would have risked what you did for a stranger. He shrugged, suddenly uncomfortable with her gratitude. Yeah, well, I've never been a fan of barbecue. Anyway, her laughter echoed down the corridor as she left, and Derek found himself smiling again, whatever he'd gotten himself into by rescuing this mysterious Parisian woman. He had a feeling his life was about to get a lot more interesting. The Nomad, Derek's modified Terran Corsair class freighter, sliced through the darkness of space, its engines humming with reassuring power in the ship's small galley. Derek p. 2 glasses of amber liquid from a bottle labeled Kentucky Bourbon Earth import. Rhea had changed into a simple black jumpsuit from the ship's fabricator, though she'd kept her fire crystal pendant. The outfit hugged her crimson form in a way that made Derek acutely aware of her alien, yet undeniably feminine physique, so he said, sliding one glass across the table to her, tell me about this crystal of yours. Rhea's slender fingers wrapped around the glass. She studied the bourbon with curiosity before taking a tentative sip. Her violet eyes widened slightly at the taste, but she didn't comment on it. It's not just jewelry, she said, touching the pendant at her throat. This fire crystal contains encrypted military intelligence about KR fleet movements, defense codes, and weaknesses in their flagship designs. Derek whistled low. No wonder they were after you. How you end up with that kind of intel? A Pyrian deep cover operative, spent 3 years infiltrating Krell High Command. She died getting this information out. Rhea's expression darkened. The data is encoded in the crystal's molecular structure. It can only be read with specialized equipment at our military outpost on Helios Prime. Let me guess, Derek said, leaning back in his chair. That outpost is currently surrounded by Krell warships. Rhea nodded. A blockade was established 2 weeks ago. The Krell don't know what we have, but they're being cautious. Derek took a long drink, savoring the burn of the bourbon. And you expect me to get you through a Krell blockade? That's suicide. You traded valuable weapons for a stranger's life. Rhea countered, her violet eyes meeting his. I suspect you're not entirely averse to risk. The corner of Derek's mouth quirked up. Fair point, but there's a difference between heroics and a death wish. I can pay you, Rhea said handsomely. The Parisian government. I'm not interested in government credits, Drick interrupted. He studied her for a moment and then sighed. But I do hate the Krell. Those bastards wiped out 3 human colonies in the Ark tourist sector last year. Hope flickered across Rye's features. Then you'll help me before Derek could answer. Echo's voice came through the ship's communication system. Sir, long-range sensors are detecting an energy signature consistent with KR patrol vessels. Estimated intercept in 43 minutes. Damn it, Derek muttered. They must have picked up our trail from Praxis 9. He stood abruptly. We need to move now. Rhea rose as well, her movements fluid and graceful. The Krell have tracking technology that can follow a ship's energy wake through space. Standard evasive maneuvers won't work. Who said anything about standard? Derek flashed her a grin as he headed for the cockpit. Rhea close behind the cockpit of the Nomad was compact, but efficiently designed with a pilot's chair, co-pilot station, and navigation console. Derek Slid into the pilot's seat, his hands dancing over the controls with practiced ease. Echo, plot a course for the Cygnes. Nebula, he ordered, and prepare the shadow drive, sir. The AI responded. The shadow drive is still experimental. Last test resulted in a 37% power drain and just. Do it, Derek. Cut, and we don't have time for the safety lecture. Rhea took the seat. Pilot seat, watching him with interest. Shadow drive, I'm not familiar with that technology. That's because it's not exactly approved, Derek admitted, flipping a series of switches overhead. Let's just say I have friends in the Terran R&D division who owe me favors. The ship's engines shifted tone, dropping to a deeper, more resonant hum. The lights in the cockpit dimmed momentarily, then stabilize at a lower intensity. The shadow drive masks our energy signature, Derek explained as he guided the ship toward a dense cluster of stars, makes us invisible to standard sensors. The downside is it burns through power like nobody's business and puts a hell of a strain on the engine's impressive murmured genuine admiration, and her voice, human ingenuity, continues to surprise me. Derek glanced at her, catching the way the dim cockpit lights played across her crimson features were full of surprises. Their eyes met, and in something electric passed between them. Derek felt his pulse quicken, and he noticed a deeper red flush spreading across Rhea's cheeks. Shadow drive engaged, Echo announced, breaking the moment. Krill vessels have not altered course. They do not appear to have detected our change in trajectory. Good, Derek said, clearing his throat. Set course for Helios Prime, Sir. Hellos Prime is currently under Krell blockade. Approaching the system would be. I'm aware of the situation, Echo. Derek interrupted. Just plot the course. Yes, sir. Estimated arrival at Helios Prime in 17 hours. Derek leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his light brown hair. 17 hours to figure out how to slip past a Krell blockade should be fun. Rhea's lips curved into a smile. I have some ideas about that. I bet you do, TK replied, returning her smile. But first, let's make sure we've lost our tail. He guided the Nomad deeper into the star cluster, weaving between celestial bodies with the confidence of a pilot who'd spent his life navigating the most treacherous routes in the galaxy. You're good, Rhea observed, watching his hands on the controls. One of the best, Derek replied without false modesty. Had to be in my line of work. And what exactly is your line of work, Captain Blackwood? Rhea asked, a hint of playfulness in her tone. Besides rescuing damsels in distress from alien barbecues, Derek chuckled. I prefer independent trader, though some less charitable types might use words like smuggler or mercenary. A man of many talents, Rhea said, her violet eyes twinkling. You have no idea, Derek replied, his voice dropping slightly. The tension between them was palpable, now a living thing that seemed to fill the small cockpit. Derek found himself acutely aware of her presence beside him, the subtle scent of her skin like sin, and something alien yet enticing the way her silver hair caught the light, the rise and fall of her chest as she breathed. Krell vessels no longer on sensors, Echo reported. We appear to have evaded pursuit. Set autopilot, Derek ordered, not taking his eyes off Rhea. And engage privacy protocols. Yes, sir. Privacy protocols engaged as the eye's presence receded, leaving them truly alone. Derek felt a moment of uncertainty. Despite his usual confidence with women, Rhea was something else entirely. Not just an alien, but a complex, fascinating individual who'd already shown depths he hadn't expected. 17 hours, Rhea said softly, breaking the silence. What do you suggest we do to pass the time? Derek held her gaze. I have a few ideas. She rose from her seat with fluid grace, moving to stand before him. So do I. Without hesitation, she leaned down and pressed her lips to his. The contact sent a jolt through Derek's body. Her lips were warmer than a human's, almost feverishly hot and incredibly soft. He responded immediately, one hand rising to tangle in her silver hair. The kiss deepened, and Derek was lost in the sensation, the heat of her, the alien sweetness of her taste, the surprising rightness of it, all. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing heavily. I've been wanting to do that since you cut me first, Rhea admitted, her violet eyes dark with desire. Funny, Derek replied, his voice rough. I've been thinking about it since I first saw you. He stood, pulling her against him, revving in the feel of her body against his. Her crimson skin radiated heat through the thin fabric of Her jumpsuit your quarters or mine, he murmured against her ear. Yours, she whispered back there closer. They barely made it through the door of his cabin before they were in each other's arms again. The universe beyond the nomad forgotten. In the discovery of each other, their clothing fell away, revealing the differences and surprising similarities between their species. What followed was a dance of exploration and passion. Her skin burning against his, her strength matching his own, their bodies finding a rhythm as ancient as life itself, yet new in its cross-species expression. In those moments, the distinctions between human and Parisian seemed to fade away, leaving only two beings connected in the most primal way. Afterward, they lay tangled in his bunk, her head resting on his chest, her silver hair spread across his skin like liquid moonlight. Derek traced patterns on her crimson shoulder, marveling at the warmth that seemed to emanate from within her. That was he. Began searching for the right word. Unexpected, Rhea suggested, looking up at him with a smile. I was going to say incredible, Derek corrected, returning her smile. Though unexpected works too, she laughed softly, the sound sending a pleasant vibration through his chest. Parisian are not usually so forward, but there's something about you, Derek Blackwood, my irresistible charm. He teased. Your humanity, she replied. Seriously, your species fascinates me. You're so young in galactic terms, yet you've spread throughout the stars with remarkable speed. You're adaptable, resourceful, passionate. Don't forget, get stubborn and reckless. Derek added those two. Rhea agreed with a smile. But those qualities are part of what makes humans special. The Krell underestimate you because of them, but I think they're your greatest strengths. Derek was silent for a moment, considering her words. We're going to need all those qualities to get through that blockade. Rhea's expression grew serious. Yes, but I believe we can do it together. As she said it, Derek realized he believed it too. Somehow, in the span of a day, this remarkable alien woman had gone from stranger to something much more significant, and whatever challenges lay ahead at Helios Prime, he was now fully committed to facing them. At her side, this is either brilliant or suicidal, Derek muttered. Examining the Krell insignia, he just fabricated. The metallic emblem gleamed under the workshop lights, is jagged edges mimicking the distinctive mark of Krell millet vessels. 8 hours had passed since their intimate encounter, and they spent most of that time working on Dirk's audacious plan, disguising the Nomad as a Krell supply ship to slip through the blockade around Helios Prime. Rhea looked up from the console, where she was programming Krell identification codes into the Nomad's transponder. Her silver hair was tied back in a practical braid, but a few strands had escaped to frame her crimson face. Even focused on work, she radiated an allure that kept drawing Derek's gaze. The line between brilliance and suicide is remarkably thin in my experience, she replied with a wry smile. Especially where humans are concerned, Derek chuckled. You're learning fast. He held up the insignia. Will this pass inspection? Rhea approached, her movements carrying that fluid grace he'd become intimately familiar with. She took the emblem, her fingers brushing his deliberately. The context sent a pleasant jolt through him, memories of their earlier passion flashing through his mind. The craftsmanship is impressive, she said, examining the insignia closely, but Krell supply vessels of this class would have the command sigil here. She pointed to the upper quadrant. Easy fix, Derek said, taking it back. What about the hull modifications? Echo is applying the external camouflage. Now the nano paint should give us the appearance of Krell alloy plating. She paused, her violet eyes meeting his. Your IEI is remarkably adaptable. Echo's special Drick agreed, technically illegal in 3 systems due to her learning capabilities. The Terran Alliance has strict regulations on AI development after the Nexus Rebellion. Yet another example of human ingenuity. Rhea observed, creating something so advanced IT frightens you, then using it anyway. That's humanity in a nutshell, Derek said with a laugh, scared shitless. But moving forward regardless. Rhea's expression grew thoughtful. My people would have simply banned AI completely. After such an incident, humans, you take the risk for the reward. Speaking of risks, Derek said, returning to the workbench, we need to Discuss what happens if we're caught. The mood in the workshop shifted. Instantly, Ria's posture stiffened, her hand unconsciously moving to the fire crystal at her throat. If we're caught, she said. Quietly, the Krell will execute you immediately as a spy meal. Keep alive long enough to extract information about the crystal and Parison defenses. Derek nodded grimly, which is why I've modified these. He opened a drawer and pulled out two small metallic capsules. Neural disruptors, painless, instantaneous, last resort. Only Ria took one of the capsules, weighing it in her palm. On my world, we call these mercy gifts. Her eyes met his, standing, passing between them. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Derek replied, taking the capsule back and returning both to the drawer. I'm planning on us not needing them. Ria stepped closer, eliminating the space between them. Her warmth radiated against him, a constant reminder of her alien physiology. You continue to surprise me, Derek Blackwood. Good surprises, I hope. He murmured, his hands finding her waist. Very good, she confirmed, rising on her toes to press her lips against his. The kiss deepened, quickly reigniting the passion they had discovered hours earlier. Derek backed her against the workbench, lifting her onto it without breaking the kiss. Her legs wrapped around his waist, pulling him closer. We should be working, Ria whispered against his lips, even as her hands slid under his shirt. This is work, Derek replied, trailing kisses down her neck. Very important. Building work. Her laugh turned into a soft gasp as his beard tickled a particularly sensitive spot on her throat. Your species has a remarkable capacity for finding excuses, another of our many talents. He agreed, his hands exploring the curves he'd memorized during their first encounter. They might have continued their morale building right there on the workbench if Echo hadn't chosen that moment to interrupt. External camouflage complete, sir, the AI announced. Approaching Helios Prime System in 3 hours, 27 minutes. Derek reluctantly pulled back his breathing uneven. Duty calls. Ria's violet eyes were dark with desire, her crimson skin flushed to an even deeper red. To be continued, she promised, sliding off the workbench. Count on it, Derek replied, stealing one more quick kiss before returning to work. The next 3 hours passed in a flurry of preparations. Dirk installed the modified insignia on the Nomad's hull while Ria programmed the ship's communication system to mimic Krell transmission patterns. Echo ran continuous simulations of their approach, identifying potential weaknesses in their disguise. When they finally gathered in the cockpit, the Nomad was as convincing a Krell supply vessel as a human-built ship could be. The external nano paint gave the hull the distinctive purple-black sheen of Krell alloy, while modified shield emitters mimicked the energy signature of Krell defensive systems. Approaching Hello's prime system, EO announced. Krill blockade detected 14 warships in standard containment formation. Derek settled into the pilot's seat, running through final checks. Ria took the co-pilot position, her expression tense but determined. Remember, she said, Krell pilots never deviate from assigned vectors. Any unnecessary course adjustments will trigger suspicion. Straight and steady, Derek confirmed. What about communications? I'll handle those, Rio replied. My accent isn't perfect, but it should pass for a regional dialect from the outer colonies. Derek reached across the console, taking her hand in his weave. Got this? She squeezed his hand, her skin warm against his. Yes, we do. They dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Helio system. Immediately, the Nomad sensors detected the cow blockade, a ring of warships surrounding the 4th planet, their weapons systems active in scanning. Incoming transmission. Reported Krell command vessel requesting identification. Ria activated the comm system, speaking in harsh, guttural sounds that bore no resemblance to any human language Derek had ever heard. The response came quickly, more of the same harsh language. They're requesting our authorization codes in cargo manifest. Ria translated, her fingers dancing over the console as she transmitted the forged documents they prepared. 10 seconds passed. Derek kept the Nomad on a steady course, fighting his instinct to make evasive maneuvers as they approach. The blockade sweat bead on his forehead, but he maintained the rigid posture of a KR pilot. Their processing, our credentials, Rhea murmured standard. Procedure. Another transmission came through. Rigor responded, her voice perfectly mimicking the emotionless efficiency of Krell communications, and they've assigned us an approach vector to Helios Prime, she said, relief evident. In her voice transmitting coordinates now, Derek adjusted their course according to the provided vector. The Nomad glided between two massive Krell warships, their weapons ports glowing, with barely contained energy, one direct hit from those cannons would vaporize the Nomad instantly. Steady, Rhea whispered, though whether to him or herself, Derek wasn't sure. They passed the first line of defense without incident. The second ring of ships loomed ahead, these positioned closer to the planet itself. Another transmission, EC. Ho-Oh warned, different frequency. Rhea frowned, listening to the incoming message. They're requesting visual confirmation of cargo. This isn't standard procedure. Derek felt his stomach tighten. Can we fake it? No, Rhea said, her voice tense. They want to see inside our hold. Their suspicious options. Derek asked, his mind racing. Rhea's violet eyes met his determination, replacing fear. We need a distraction, something big enough to disrupt their scanning protocols. Derek grinned. Suddenly, I think I know just the thing. He turned to the console. Echo, prepare the shadow drive for emergency burst. Target the command vessel sensor array. So using the shadow drive as a weapon will likely result in catastrophic. Just do it, Derek interrupted. On my mark. He looked at Rhea. When I give the signal, be ready to transmit an emergency protocol alert in Krell. Tell them we've detected a radiation leak in our engine corp. Understanding dawned in her eyes, creating confusion in their command structure. Clever, that's me, Derek replied with a wink. Mr. Clever. As they approached the second ring of ships, Derek's hand hovered over the shad drive controls. Timing would be everything now. Say H. The shadow drive activated with a surge of power that made the Nomad's lights flicker, but instead of masking their signature, Derek had modified it to emit a focused pulse of disruptive energy directly at the Krell command vessel sensor array. Simultaneously, Rhea transmitted the false alert, her voice carrying the perfect note of Krell urgency. The effect was immediate. Alarms blared across the Krell network as the command vessel sensors went offline. The blockade formation began to break as ships moved to compensate for the sudden loss of coordination vector to Helios Prime. Maximum thrust, Derek ordered, pushing the Nomad's engines beyond safety parameters. The ship shot forward, streaky, through the gap that had opened in the blockade behind them. The Krell vessels scrambled to re-establish their formation, but the confusion bought precious seconds. Their locking weapons, Rhea warned, as the first shots fired energy beams slicing through space around them. Derek executed a series of evasive maneuvers that no Krell pilot would attempt, instantly giving away their deception, but they were already past the main blockade, racing toward Helios Prime's atmosphere, entering planetary atmosphere. In 30 seconds, E reported Krell pursuit vessels launching. Can we reach the Parisian outpost before they catch us? Derek asked, his hands flying over the controls. Rhea checked the navigation system. Yes, but it will be close. The outpost is on the far side of that mountain range. The Nomad plunged into Helios Prime's atmosphere, its hull glowing red with friction. The nano paint began to burn away, revealing the ship's true appearance. Transmitting emergency codes to the outpost, Rhea said, alerting them to prepare for hot extraction. Derek guided the ship through cloud cover, hugging the terrain to minimize their sensor profile behind them. Krell pursuit vessels entered the atmosphere, their superior engines quickly closing the distance. We're not going to outrun them. Derek realized, we need another trick. Rhea's eyes lit up the canyon system. Ahead, Krell ships are too large to navigate it effectively. Canyon it is. Derek agreed, banking the Nomads sharply toward the jagged rift in the planet's surface as they raced toward what might be their salvation or their doom. Derek cast a quick glance at Rhea. If these were to be their final moments together, he wanted to remember her like this, fierce, determined, and absolutely Magnificent, the Nomad screamed through the canyon, its HLE scraping against stone walls, as Derek pushed the ship to its limits. Behind them, two smaller Krell pursuit vessels had managed to follow their weapons' fire, illuminating the narrow passage with flashes of deadly energy outpost coming up in 30 seconds. Rhea called, her fingers dancing across the navigation console. Derek nodded, sweat beading on his forehead as he executed another tight maneuver. Prepare landing protocols and keep those defensive systems hot. The canyon widened, suddenly revealing a plateau nestled between towering mountains. The Parisian outpost stood at its center, a collection of elegant structures that seemed to glow with an fire, their architecture both alien and beautiful. Receiving landing clearance, Rhea announced, relief evident in her voice. They're activating defensive shields. As the Nomad cleared the canyon mouth, a shimmering barrier of energy sprang to life behind them. The pursuing Krell vessel slammed into it, exploding in twin fireballs that briefly outshone Helios Prime's distant sun. Derek guided the ship to a gentle landing on the designated pad. As the engines powered down, he turned to Rhea with a triumphant grin. Not bad for a smuggler, huh? She leaned across the console and kissed him fiercely. Not bad at all, Captain Blackwood. They were met at the landing pad by a contingent of Parisian soldiers, their crimson skin and silver hair marking them as Rhya's people, but something about their formation triggered Derek's instincts. They were too rigid, too formal. His years as a smuggler had taught him to recognize when something wasn't right. Rhea, he murmured as they descended the Nomads ramp. Something's off, she nodded almost imperceptibly. I sense it too, stay alert. A male Pius stepped forward, his uniform adorned with insignia that marked him as a high-ranking officer, Agent Ember Har. He greeted Rhea with a formal salute. We had feared you lost the crystal safe. Commander Pyle Rigger replied, her hand touching the pendant at her throat. But I must deliver it directly to General Flame. Right, as per protocol. The commander's expression tightened almost imperceptibly. The general is occupied with the blockade situation. I've been authorized to receive the intelligence. Derek watched the exchange, carefully noting how several of the soldiers seemed to tense at the mention of Protocol 1 in particular. A female officer standing slightly behind the commander had a hand resting too casually near her weapon. Of course, Commander, Rhea said smoothly, but first I must introduce my companion. This is Captain Derek Blackwood of Earth. Without him, I would never have escaped Prize 9 or broken through the blockade. All eyes turned to Derek. He straightened, adopting the confident stance of a Terran military officer rather than his usual relaxed posture. An honor to meet Rhea's comrades, he said formally. The Krell are a common enemy to both our peoples. The commander studied him with barely concealed disdain. A human, interesting choice of assistant agent art. Captain Blackwood is more than an assistant, Rhea replied, a dangerous edge to her voice. He is a warrior worthy of the highest Parisian respect. As she spoke, Derek noticed her left hand making subtle gestures at her side, movements that seemed deliberate rather than nervous fidgeting, a C that he realized meant for loyal Parisians indeed to come. And the commander said, well, we should proceed to security debriefing immediately. This way, please. As they followed the commander into the main complex, Derek observed the reactions of the other Parisians. Most maintained neutral expressions, but he caught a few exchanging meaningful glances. The female officer he noticed earlier had fallen into step directly behind them, too close for comfort. The interior of the outpost was as impressive as its exterior corridors of polished stone that seemed to glow with inner heat ceilings that arched gracefully overhead. Under different circumstances, Derek would have admired the architecture. The extraction chamber is prepared, the commander announced as they approached a sealed doorway. Agent Ember Har, if you'll come with me, your human can wait outside. Captain Blackwood stays with me, Rhea insisted. Hunes earned that right. The commander's jaw tightened. That's not protocol, neither is bypassing General Flame, right? Or I countered. Yet here we are. The tension in the corridor was palpable. Derek shifted slightly, positioning himself for quick action if needed. He caught Rhea's eye, a silent communication passing between them. They were ready. Very well, the commander conceded. Both of you. Then the door slid open, revealing a circular chamber dominated by a pedestal at its center. Several Parisians in Scientific attire stood around various consoles, placed the crystal on the pedestal. The commander instructed our technicians will extract the data. Rhea stepped forward, her hand moving to the pendant, but instead of removing it, she spun suddenly, her staff extending from its concealed form at her thigh now. Derek, she shouted. Derek was already moving. He drove his elbow into the female officer behind him, confirming his suspicion when she responded with inhuman strength and speed. Krell, disguised as pie in the chamber, erupted into chaos. Rhea's staff connected with the commander's jaw, sending him sprawling. Derek ducked under a swing from another disguised Krell, drawing his sidearm and firing in one fluid motion. Echo, he barked into his communicator. Security protocol Omia, lock down the Nomad and alert any real Parisians that the outpost is compromised. 3 of the scientists revealed themselves as Krell agents, their holographic disguises flickering as they drew weapons, but they weren't prepared for Rhea's fire abilities. Flames erupted from Mer palms, engulfing the nearest attacker. Derek fought back to back with Rhea, their movements synchronized as if they trained together for years rather than days. His combat knife found vulnerable points in Krell armor, while her staff and flames kept others at bay. The door burst open, and for a moment Derek feared reinforcements for the enemy. Instead, a squad of Parisian soldiers poured in, led by an older female with elaborate insignia. General Flamer Rhea acknowledged with relief. "Well done, Agent Ember Har," the general replied, surveying the subdued Krell infiltrators. "Your coded message reached me just in time." As the loyal Parisians secured the prisoners, Rhea turned to Derek. A cut above his eye was bleeding, and his knuckles were raw, but he never looked more alive or more attractive to her. "Not exactly the welcome I promised you," she said with a wry smile. Derek grinned, wiping blood from his brow. "Are you kidding? This is practically a standard Tuesday for me." General Flamer approached them, her piercing gaze assessing Derek with interest. "So this is the human who saved both my best agent and our most critical intelligence." General Rhea said formally, "May I present Captain Derek Blackwood of Earth." Derek straightened, offering a respectful nod. "General Captain Blackwood." Flamer acknowledged. "Parisia owes you a debt that cannot easily be repaid." "I didn't do it for Parisia," Derek replied honestly. Eyes meeting Rhea's, the general's lips curved in understanding. "I see." She turned to Rhea, the crystal agent. Art Rhea removed the pendant, placing it reverently on the pedestal. The crystal began to glow, interfacing with push-in technology to reveal its secrets. "With this intelligence, Flame right said, we can break the cow blockade and turn the tide of the war." 2 hours later, after debriefings and medical treatment, Derek found himself on a balcony overlooking the Payan outpost. The twin moons of Helio Prime cast a silvery glow over the landscape, reminding him of Rhea's hair. As if summoned by his thoughts, she appeared beside him, now dressed in a formal Parisian uniform that somehow enhanced rather than diminished her beauty. Thinking of leaving, she asked, noticing his gaze on the Nomad visible on the landing pad below. Thinking about what comes next, he corrected, "The Kell won't be happy when Parisia breaks their blockade. This war is just beginning." Rhea stepped closer, her warmth radiating in the cool night air. "And where does a Captain Derek Blackwood fit into that war?" He turned to face her, reaching out to tuck a strand of silver hair behind her ear. "That depends on where Agent Rhea Art needs him to be, and if she needs him." By her side, Rhea asked, her violet eyes searching his. Derek smiled, pulling her gently into his arms. "Then that's exactly where he'll stay." Their lips met under the alien moons, a human and a Prion finding something neither had expected when their paths crossed on a distant desert world. What had begun with a desperate rescue from an alien barbecue had transformed into something neither of them could have anticipated, a bond forged in fire and strengthened by shared danger. "The general has offered you a commission," Rhea murmured against his lips, as a special loan between Perusia and Earth. "Did she now?" Derek replied, beard tickling her cheek as he smiled. "And would that position come with certain perks?" Rhea laughed, the sound like music in the night air. "I believe That could be arranged, Captain Blackwood. As they sealed their agreement with another kiss, Derek reflected that. Sometimes the most profitable trades weren't measured in credits or weapons, but in the unexpected treasures found. Along the way, Rhea, art fierce warrior, passionate lover, and now his partner in whatever adventures lay ahead, was the most valuable treasure he'd ever discovered.